In this section, we're going to use Gulp to run and watch our tests. Gulp is a task runner that's very powerful, and you can use it to automate just about any kind of task. Gulp is often used as a build system for web projects. Now in this demo, we're going to use the basics of Gulp, but we're not going to learn a lot of the details. If you're interested in Gulp, I highly suggest you check out one of Pluralsight's courses on Gulp. To get going with Gulp, we have to start by installing it, and we'll do that by npm install Gulp, and we'll install it globally to begin with. And then we're also going to install Gulp locally, in addition to a couple of other modules, Gulp Mocha and Gulp Util. Now that those are installed, we're going to go back to our project. And I'm starting off with the same project that we've been working with previously. This gives us an existing set of tests that we can run. And I'm going to create a new file called gulpfile.js. I'm putting this in the root of my project. The gulpfile.js file is a JavaScript file. So inside of this file, we can write any kind of JavaScript that we want, but we typically follow a fairly set pattern. We're going to require in Gulp. I'm also going to require in Gulp Mocha. And finally, I'm going to require in Gulp Util. Now that I've got the proper libraries imported, I can go ahead and start making Gulp do things for me, and I do that with the gulp.task function. This takes in two parameters, the name of the task, which I'm going to name this task Mocha, because it's going to run my Mocha tests, and then a callback. And this callback is going to return, and we'll start out with calling gulp.source, and that tells Gulp to load up the following files. And I'm going to give it a file pattern of test/star.js so that it will run all of the JS files inside of my test directory. And I'm going to give it a second parameter, which is some options. I'm just going to tell it read false. And then I'm going to pipe that into the Mocha function, which is that Gulp Mocha module. And that takes in, again, a list of options. And I'm going to choose a reporter. The reporter formats the output when we run the tests, and I'm going to ask it for the list reporter. There's a lot of different reporters that you can use. You could check out the documentation if you want to see what some of the other reporters look like. And then I'm also going to listen to the error event. And if it does have an error, I want it to log out, which is where I'm going to use that gutil and call log. Now, of course, before this will run, I've got to fix this little typo here. And now I can save and run my tests. We'll go out to the command line, and I'm going to type in Gulp, and then the name of the task that I created, which was called Mocha, and execute it. And we can see that I've got 10 passing tests. The formatting of the output is a little bit different than we're used to with Mocha. That's because of that reporter that we chose. But mostly you just look at the bottom and see how many are passing and how many are failing. Now another thing that we can do is get Gulp to watch the files and rerun the tests whenever they change. So let's add another task, and this one we'll call watch Mocha. And in this case, we're going to call gulp.watch, and we give it an array of file patterns. So I want it to watch my source files, which are going to be in any directory, and they're going to have a JS extension. And I'm going to also explicitly tell it to watch the test directory. These essentially do the same thing, although it's nice to have it in two different specifications, because that way if I move the test files or the source files around, I know that I need to go in and change the paths. And then I give it a second parameter, which is another array of the tasks that I want to run when watch detects that something changes and I want to run the Mocha task. Now this is great, but it won't run my Mocha tasks right at the beginning. It's only going to run them if something changes, and I want them to run once as soon as I tell it to watch Mocha, because I want to see if everything's passing before I start changing any files. So I'm going to tell Gulp to run the Mocha task. And now if I go out to the command line and I run Gulp watch -Mocha, you can see that it's ran all of my tests, but it's now watching. So if I go back and go into my tests and make a change, and let's make this one start failing. As soon as I save it, go back and we can see it's already rerun the tests and reported out that one of my tests is failing. Go back and fix it, and go back to the command line, and everything's passing. Now, one more thing that we can do with Gulp that is really nice is to set a default task. So we call gulp.task, and we just name the task default, and that will tell Gulp if I ever call Gulp without a second parameter, then this is the task I want you to run, or a series of tasks that I want you to run. In this case, we just want to watch. So we'll call the watch-Mocha tasks. And we'll save and go back out to the command line. And this time I'll just call Gulp. And you can see it's running the watch Mocha task by default. And so there's our introduction to using Gulp to test with Mocha.